Hello, so today I'm going to show you how to add a simple button on QGroundControl and even change an application setting. So first things first, I'm on the daily branch of QGroundControl. So this is like with the new stuff. Basically, it's on Qt 6.8, and like there's no guarantee that things will work on this branch. If you are making something for production, you should be on the stable release. But for the sake of this tutorial being like good for the future and for people who maybe want to contribute to QGroundControl, I figured I would do it on the master branch just to show off like what things look like with the most recent changes. So yeah, my idea of what I will be showing in this tutorial will eventually be an area where you could just click on this map and add like a favorite point and have that save. So right now, if you click on the map or click and hold, at least on the master version, nothing happens. And we're just going to make it so that you can add like favorite points and add labels to them and stuff like that. I think that's a pretty good way to just show off the multiple things that you can do in QGroundControl and stuff you can mess around with. Before we get started, I actually wanted to show how to how to look stuff up when you're lost, because when you're like following these types of tutorials and stuff, you should just think of it like, oh, this is a guide on how to do something. But if you want to do something yourself, you should really look at the documentation and see what you can do. So as you can see, this is a pretty large project, and there's areas with C++ and areas with QML. And basically, this is a Qt project that uses Qt Quick. And Qt Quick uses QML for the front end, the actual visual parts, and then it uses C++ for the back end stuff. And there's ways to interface between the C++ and the QML. So if you're ever confused about something, like let's say that you want to look at Qt's map, right? This map item. You do Qt QML map, and as you can see, this map QML type shows up. Now this is the right version for us because we're in 6.8 right now. But if you're on an older version of QGroundControl or something, like you're on the latest stable release currently, you would have to go to 5.15, and you'll see some of these properties change. And in order to actually put this map down, they had to import Qt location, and that's what they did right here. So, and this will show like every property that you can add. So like, what does bearing do? You click on that and it tells you what the property does. There's stuff also like that has default values that you don't necessarily have to put here. And yeah, like map is kind of a complex one, but there are simpler ones. Like let's look Qt QML button, right? I misspelled that, button, right? This is pretty simple. There's not many properties to it. And as you can see, or as you will see soon, QGroundControl actually takes a lot of these types and they make their own versions of them. So like if you search up QGC button, you see QGroundControl made their own version of button with their own properties and stuff like that. And the reason that you do that is if you want to have something look a specific way and you want to use it in multiple areas, this avoids you from repeating code. So maybe I'm going too far into it right now. Let's just show how to make a simple button on the screen first. So this is the first video of this series, so I want to start out simple, right? So yeah, I guess I changed my mind last minute. We're going to start out simple and we'll go more advanced as we go on. So this is the application settings of QGroundControl, and like basically lets you, there's multiple areas in this application setting. And one thing that I used to run into when I started out is like, how do I figure out where the hell this is in the code, right? This general application settings. Well, easy way is just since I use VS Code, I usually use the search tab, but like there's probably easier ways to do this too. But like just like look for like a string. So like UI scaling, let's look that up, right? Quote unquote UI scaling. Oh, and we found it right here. And certain things there might be multiple of it around, but like easy way to figure out where something is to literally just look at what the front end is searching up. And yeah, you can see that this general settings, it takes the settings page, which if I do on my Visual Studio, if I do Control P, I can search up actual files. This settings page is just this item that uses this QGC flickable, which is a lot of times when QGC inherits stuff, they will actually just add a QGC in front of it. But this is basically a flickable item, which means that you can scroll up and down if it gets too large. It's like a page that you can scroll through. But yeah, you don't have to understand everything when going into stuff. Like a lot of things I will probably forget about until I look at it again. But yeah, here are all like the settings, and if you're on the latest stable release, it will look different, and there will probably be differences. So that's just a fair warning. But yeah, there's like let's see. There's, I think we scrolled too far down. This is for brand image, which is this part at the very bottom right here. I guess they let you change the brand image now. I never actually known that, because I usually use the latest stable since I'm making production stuff, but that's cool. But yeah, you can like let's like add a very basic button. This might not be the best place to do it since like since QGC has a very specific way of doing it on this tab now. But let's just do this. So I'm just trying to figure out where I should put it. Let's put it at the bottom of general right here, right? So oh, interesting. They have it like the settings group layout. This is like a special way of doing it too. Basically, oh yeah, and if you ever like are confused about something, sometimes it's like custom. So you just like look it up and you'll see like the implementation of it. So this settings group layout is quite literally like a column, and like the items inside are probably ordered by like this, basically. I'm not going to look too deep into it, but let's and like as you can see, like things are done very specifically here. So like labeled facts combo box, right? There's this like language here. Oh, and facts are a different thing, which is like QGC's internal way of messing with settings and stuff. But let's add a property here. You know what, let's not even bother with that, because I'm just going to show a quick button on how to do it. So QGC button, ID, button 1, right? Layout to fill with true. Let's actually turn off Copilot because it's kind of annoying. Yeah, you could set the height of it, but I'm not going to do that. And then we're going to just say like width screen tools dot default font pixel width. You could always so QGroundControl like has their own basically it's a standardized way of setting widths and heights and stuff like that kind of scales with the screen, or like basically scales with what your UI scaling is set to. And that's what the screen tools default font pixel width is. And there's also default font pixel height. You could always set it to a specific value like 50 or something like that, and that would be 50 pixels. But like that is not a good way to do it, because your stuff is not going to look good if you have it across multiple devices. So yeah, we Let's name it button 1. And if you look here on the button documentation, there's text and then onClicked, right? So let's just add like text here, right? So text. Oh, and fair warning, if you're like adding something to the settings page and stuff, you shouldn't just add a button like this. You should probably do it the same way that it's being done already, or it's going to look horrible. I'm just showing a simple button right now because, you know, we have to start out simple, right? So text is like button, and we'll say onClicked, and oh yeah, and you got to make sure that there's a colon here. Whenever like stuff is inside like an on, like basically an event like this, like onClicked or something like that, it becomes JavaScript. So you do like a console, let's just do a console.log clicked, right? And let's close out of this and open the build or run the build. I did a Control R, but you can click this play button as well. And then you go to compile output to see what's going on. It's compiling. There we go. So now let's go to our application settings. And look, there's our button right there. And we click on it. Oh yeah, if you click here, this is application output, right? We click on our button. It tells us clicked, right? So we just added a simple button. And I never really said it, but like this layout.fillWith just makes it so it fills across whatever it's inside of. So if we had this button outside of this, it'd probably fill across the entire screen. But yeah, that's a button. Let's actually do it the correct way now of making an actual setting. Because we want, our end goal is to basically have it so we allow the user to click somewhere on the screen and basically add like a point of interest, right? So like, you know, user might want to do that. Like there's other things that probably have better applications, but this is just my thought process of like, you know, it'd be kind of a cool thing to show. So let's remove this button here. Let's just add a fact checkbox slider, the similar way to how they do it already. You know, you don't want to necessarily do things differently. If it's like something like this where it's a list of stuff, you know, just unless you have a need, you should probably just do it the same way that it's already been done. And I myself am not really a I'm not really a UI person. And you know what? We'll do the old copy paste, right? And let's just call this enable point of interest saving. We'll leave this fact blank right now. And you know what? We'll just do true for visible. And yeah, let me actually show you how to add an application setting. So just go to QGC application.h. This is where like the main application starts up. Actually, I don't think it's here. App settings. Oh yeah, it's appsettings.h. So basically, this is where like all the application settings are controlled in this SRC settings area. And there's like multiple different types. So app settings is like the, this is for like basically anything that encompasses the entire application itself. So you'll see like multiple things here, like Android, save to SD card, save path, indoor palette, whatever, you know. But there's other like areas that inherit from app settings, I believe. No, they inherit from settings group. But basically, like as an example, battery indicator settings. The reason these are separated into separate files is because it makes it way more readable. You know, you don't have to scroll through app settings to find all the battery stuff. You're just like, oh, like battery specific settings, they're in this battery indicator settings group, you know? So you got like, you know, value display, threshold 1, threshold 2, descriptions, right? And then there's like this define settings facts. declare settings fact, right? But basically, let's show you how to figure out, because this settings group, I believe, is specific to Qt. Let's take a look. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay. Well, then there's not going to be much documentation on it except for what exists on QGroundControl. But like, basically, there's the settings group. Its purpose is to make it easier to define settings on this Qt application, so that you don't manually have to define these settings and stuff like that. Yeah, so oftentimes when I'm doing stuff, I will literally just look at how it's already done, and I will do it the exact same way, because that, that's sometimes that's just how you do stuff, unless you need to create something new. So let's make a setting, right? So define settings fact. Oops. Define setting facts. Like, first we need to define a setting, and it has to be under the fact system. So we'll call it, what do we call our setting? Let's see. POI saving, like place of interest. So POI saving enabled. And you can ignore all this stuff. And sometimes when I'm like, oh, how is anything else done? Let's do like pass error link. Let's look at this. Okay, it's only actually defined here. So pass error link. You'll see that it's declared as well. So we have to do the exact same thing. So declare. Oops. We'll just copy paste. Declare settings fact, and then ours was called POI saving enabled, right? And then this app.settings group, .json, that actually defines where the like the different factors of the specific setting you have. So, and by the way, the reason that you add an application setting is if you want something that if you change it, it saves when you close out of the app and reopen it. So let's set the name to POI saving enabled. Short disk, so the description, this will just be place of interest. Maybe my name is kind of bad, but place of interest saving. Type, well, this is a bool. We forgot a comma. And then we'll just say defaults will be true. Cool, so we got this place of interest saving enabled. Nice. So next, now that that has been dealt with, let's just quickly compile our application just to make sure I didn't break anything, because I'm really good at breaking stuff, let me tell you that. And we made a change to the C++, so it's going to have to do more stuff before it's done. Okay, and it compiled successfully without error. Nice. So let's actually add our setting, right? So we do this, like, oh, Android saved SD card. Let's do like POI saving enabled. And property facts. Oh yeah, properties are basically just variables, and you'll see, like, if you scroll up, there's also properties here. So you could have property var, fact is like a custom QGroundControl thing through the fact system and fact controls, and that's how it's actually how the settings actually work. So property fact POI saving enabled, app settings, POI saving enabled. And then, you know what? I think every fact has a visible value as well. So pretty sure. Yeah. So we'll set visible to POI saving enabled dot visible. And if we forgot that fact, then QML will throw you an error. So let's actually do that on purpose. So let's just forget this and see what happens. Because something you might notice is that when you screw up on QML, it'll still compile correctly. It's just it'll tell you once you're running your code, because this is the front end, and there are certain things that you can do that'll really mess up, and maybe it'll fail to build. But like if you mess up QML, it won't necessarily fail. So as you can see, it only gave me an error once I opened the application settings because it wasn't actually loaded up yet. And it's like, oh, POI saving enabled is not defined. Well, when something isn't defined, it usually means you have to add a property. So property facts, POI saving enabled. There we go. And now when we run this, let's see what happens. And of course, depending on where you are in the code, this might not be the best thing to use, like fact checkbox slider. This is good if you're on a settings page, and you have to have the right imports as well, or it's not gonna recognize it. But yeah, let's get our application settings, and yeah, enable POI saving. We can uncheck this. We can check it. Right now, that setting doesn't control nothing happens when that setting is changed, except for the setting actually being changed. So we're not going to see any differences, but now we actually successfully added a setting on QGroundControl. And I might end the video here and do a part 2 because I don't want the video to be too long. But yeah, we in this first video, we added a button, and then we actually changed it to be the same way that it's done on the settings page, and made a setting that was changeable.